Here at Horizon Explained, we have a very strict philosophy about science. If a question sounds ridiculous, dangerous, or like something a sleep-deprived physicist muttered at 3 a.m., then it's absolutely worth exploring. Whether it's what if we detonated a nuke inside a black hole, or what would happen if gravity doubled overnight, we're committed to finding out. Not because these scenarios are practical, but because they reveal how the universe actually works. So today we're diving into a thought experiment pulled from ancient mythology and thrown under the cold spotlight of physics. What would happen if our entire planet suddenly transformed into solid gold? Not partially, not slowly, instantly. One moment Earth is Earth. The next moment, it's a shimmering golden sphere. On the surface, it sounds like a billionaire's fever dream. In reality, it's one of the fastest ways to erase life from the universe short of dropping the sun on our heads. But before we jump into the catastrophic details, we first need to decide how this transformation happens. Because the way the change occurs completely determines the outcome. In the old myth, King Midas gains the golden touch, a magical curse that turns everything he touches into gold. But mythology doesn't care about protons or atomic density or thermodynamics. We do. So to make this scenario scientific, we have to choose a mechanism that could theoretically exist in a universe with consistent rules. And depending on how we define the rules, the results range from planet-killing explosion to global implosion to Earth becomes a brutally heavy, scalding hot, ocean-covered golden nightmare. Let's start by imagining the simplest version of the curse, the one closest to the myth. In this model, turning something into gold means adding the necessary protons, neutrons, and electrons to convert every atom into a gold atom. Gold has 79 protons, far more than the elements making up everyday matter. So take a regular object, a fruit, a car, or even a duck. A duck is mostly made of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, light elements with tiny nuclei. To convert that duck into pure gold, the magic would need to conjure dozens of extra protons and neutrons out of nowhere for every atom in its body, effectively multiplying its mass by 30. The duck wouldn't simply become heavy. It would become ridiculously, impossibly dense. Organic matter is fluffy compared to metals, and gold atoms packed tightly. So as the new gold atoms crush against each other, repelling violently because they're too close, the duck doesn't turn into a statue. It turns into a bomb. The pressure buildup is so extreme that the duck essentially detonates in a micro-explosion powerful enough to shred anything nearby. A foul play of physics. As for Midas, he wouldn't last long enough to regret it. Clearly, this version of the curse is unusable. So let's adjust the rules. Instead of creating matter out of thin air, what if the curse simply rearranged the existing particles? Imagine every proton, neutron, and electron in an object dissolving into a chaotic cloud, then reassembling into gold atoms without adding or losing anything. Now the duck doesn't need extra matter. It just needs to convert its existing mass into gold's atomic structure. The result is bizarre. Gold is extremely dense. A duck is not. So if the mass stays constant while the density jumps, the volume must increase. But in our scenario, the magic forces the final result to keep the same size as the original object. So we get a sort of spongy, foamy gold with microscopic pockets of nothingness inside. A hollow, brittle, gold-colored replica of a duck that weighs the same as before but behaves like a fragile metal sponge. Strange, but not explosive. Progress. Now comes the terrifying part. Scale this up. What if instead of a duck, the object being converted is the entire Earth? Freeze the world at the moment of transformation. Every atom on the planet dissolves, reorganizes, and reforms into gold atoms, keeping the same mass as before, but becoming a spongy, underdense, unstable golden structure at planetary scale. In a small object like a duck, microscopic gaps don't matter. But in a planet, gaps are lethal. Gravity despises empty space. Planets stay planets because they compress themselves. So the moment time resumes, Earth collapses inward. The entire planet crumples like a slow-motion implosion, squeezing out all voids until it reaches the density demanded by solid gold at equilibrium. Earth shrinks to about 2/3 of its former radius, a colossal contraction happening in minutes. If you were standing on the surface when this begins, you wouldn't see an explosion. You'd feel something far stranger, the ground beneath your feet dropping away. You enter freefall along with every building, every tree, every car, every ocean. Gravity hasn't turned off. The ground is simply falling as fast as you are. For the first time in human history, billions of people experience weightlessness simultaneously. It lasts for roughly 10 minutes. A horrifying 10 minutes where continents sink into themselves, oceans curl inward, and everything floats as though Earth has become a broken elevator. And then, without warning, the collapse ends. The planet hits its new equilibrium size. Gravity switches from falling with you to pulling you down. Instantly, you and everything else slam into the golden surface at tens of thousands of miles per hour. Human bodies don't bounce. They rupture. They smear. They atomize. Civilization ends in the blink of an eye, as nearly all life is crushed in a single global impact event. But this is only the beginning. A supersonic planetary implosion releases unimaginable energy. The core of the new gold Earth heats to temperatures resembling a stellar interior, millions of degrees Fahrenheit. A blast wave races outward, vaporizing the crust, blasting the atmosphere into space, and turning the surface into a glowing plasma cloud brighter than the sun itself. For days, the planet radiates like a newborn star before gradually cooling into a smooth, reflective golden sphere drifting silently in the dark. Clearly, that version of the curse is a bad deal for Earth. So let's try one more, the cleanest magical rule. Suppose the curse simply exchanges an object with an equal volume block of pure, solid gold. No rearranging items. No adding protons. Just a perfect swap. Earth remains the same size, but now it's entirely made of gold. Finally, no implosion. No explosión. Just a big, heavy golden world. But here's the catch. Gold is incredibly dense. If the planet's volume stays the same, but the density triples, its mass triples too. And mass means gravity. Overnight, Earth's surface gravity becomes more than 3 times stronger than normal. Everything becomes impossibly heavy. A 180-pound person now weighs over 600 pounds. Most people collapse instantly, their legs unable to support them. Buildings buckle. Bridges snap. Trees fall. Birds drop from the sky. Even air is affected. The atmosphere gets smashed downward by the increased weight, which means pressure skyrockets and temperature climbs. Air at triple pressure doesn't kill you immediately. Scuba divers handle that. But add heat and things change. When air compresses, it heats dramatically. Earth's surface temperature hits around 300 degrees Fahrenheit, the temperature inside a slow cooker. Oceans don't boil, but everything in the water dies as the heat diffuses downward. And that's assuming the oceans stay where they are. With mountains now made of soft, malleable gold, the tallest peaks can only rise about a mile high before collapsing under their own weight. Entire mountain ranges flatten like warm dough. The crust shifts downward in some places and upward in others, allowing ocean basins to spill over. Massive global floods sweep across continents until the entire planet is submerged beneath a deep, uniform ocean several thousand feet thick. The final scene is nightmarish. A perfectly smooth golden world with no continents, no mountains, no forests, no cities. Just a global ocean simmering under a thick, scorching atmosphere. A planet that glows faintly from heat and reflects sunlight like a polished ornament. Silent, lifeless, metallic, beautiful in the most horrifying way. So what's the moral of this golden apocalypse? Maybe it's a warning about desire. Maybe it's commentary on greed. Or maybe the universe is simply reminding us that turning an entire planet into precious metal is a shockingly bad engineering decision. Either way, we've run the calculations so you don't have to. And if you actually learned something today, let us know what it was.